Welcome to Shadowlands Ghosts, a place where the veil between reality and the unknown is at its thinnest. I'm your host, Raven Blackwood, and I'm glad you've joined me on this journey into the heart of darkness. As we delve into the mysteries of the paranormal, I invite you to leave your skepticism behind and indulge your curiosity. You see, I've always been drawn to the unexplained, the unseen, and the unheard. There's something about the unknown that resonates deep within me, a sense of connection to the shadows that whisper secrets in the dead of night. And I'm not alone. There are countless souls out there, just like you, who are searching for answers to the questions that haunt them. Which brings us to our story, the sinister echoes of the forgotten asylum that never stopped screaming. Imagine a place where the walls run red with the blood of the past, where the screams of the damned still echo through the corridors, and where the living are not welcome. This is the story of Oakwood Asylum, a place that was abandoned decades ago, but where the horrors of the past refuse to be silenced. But be warned, this is not a story for the faint of heart. You'll be hearing it from the perspective of the lead character, who's about to embark on a journey that will test their sanity and push them to the very limits of human endurance. So, if you're ready to join me on this journey into the heart of madness, then subscribe to Shadowlands Ghosts and become a part of our community. Together, we'll explore the darkest corners of the unknown and uncover the secrets that lie within. But be warned, once you enter the Shadowlands, there's no turning back. As I stepped out of the car and onto the crumbling asphalt of Oakwood Asylum's entrance, a chill ran down my spine. The once majestic building loomed before me, its towering. Spires and turrets now twisted and worn, like the ravaged fingers of a long-dead giant. The wind whispered secrets in my ear, its gentle caress sending shivers down my neck. I couldn't help but feel that I was being watched, that unblinking eyes were trained on me from the shadows. My friend, Emily, nudged me forward, her eyes sparkling with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "Come on, Alex, let's get this over with," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. We've been planning this expedition for months, poring over dusty tomes and scouring the internet for any mention of Oakwood Asylum's dark past. As a journalist, I'd always been drawn to the unknown, the unexplained, and the unsettling. There was something about the abandoned asylum that resonated with me, a sense of morbid curiosity that I couldn't shake. Emily, on the other hand, was a thrill seeker, always chasing the next adrenaline rush. Together, we made an unlikely duo, but our differences were what drove us to explore the depths of Oakwood Asylum. We've been warned not to come here, of course. The locals whispered tales of strange occurrences and unexplained phenomena, of disembodied screams and ghostly apparitions. But I'd always been skeptical, chalking it up to small-town legend and superstition. As we approached the entrance, I noticed something odd. The front door, once a sturdy barrier between the outside world and the asylum's inner workings, now hung crookedly on its hinges, as if it had been pushed open from the inside. A faint hum, like the distant thrumming of a bass guitar, seemed to emanate from within. I exchanged a nervous glance with Emily, but she just shrugged and pushed open the creaking door. "After you," she said, her smile faltering for a moment. I hesitated, my heart pounding in my chest. Something didn't feel right. But I steeled myself and stepped into the darkness, the door creaking shut behind us like a trap. As we made our way deeper into the asylum, the silence grew thicker, like a palpable fog that clung to our skin. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being herded, led deeper into the heart of madness by some unseen force. and then I heard it. A faint whisper, a soft echo that seemed to come from all around us. It was a name, a single word that sent shivers down my spine. Welcome. As I stepped deeper into the darkness, the whisper seemed to grow louder, more urgent. Welcome, it seemed to say, over and over, until the word became a mantra, a rhythmic chant that echoed through my mind. I tried to shake it off, to focus on the task at hand, but the sound lingered, a persistent presence that I couldn't ignore. I glanced around, trying to get my bearings. We were standing in a long, narrow corridor, the walls lined with peeling paint and faded signs that seemed to point to various wards and departments. The air was thick with dust and the stench of decay, a noxious odor that seemed to cling to every surface. Emily nudged me forward, her eyes shining with excitement. "Come on, Alex, let's keep moving," she whispered. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. Something didn't feel right, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was. As we walked, the whisper seemed to grow louder, more insistent. I could feel it vibrating through the air, a low-frequency hum that seemed to resonate deep within my bones. I tried to shake it off, to tell myself it was just my imagination, but the sound seemed to be coming from all around me, echoing off the walls and ceiling. And then I saw it. A door, slightly ajar, with a sign that seemed to leap out at me, Ward 13. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I pushed the door open, my heart pounding in my chest. The room was small, with a single bed in the center. But it was the walls that caught my attention. They were covered in scribbles, a madman's scrawl that seemed to dance across the surface. I recognized some of the symbols. They were from an ancient language, one that was thought to be extinct. But it was the message, scrawled across the wall in bold, red letters, that made my blood run cold. "I'm not alone," it read. "I am never alone." I felt a hand on my shoulder, and I spun around to face Emily. Her eyes were wide with fear, her face pale. "What is this place?" she whispered. I shook my head, my mind racing. I didn't know, but I knew we had to get out of there fast. As I turned to leave, I heard it. A faint noise, like the sound of footsteps coming from the hallway. It was light, almost imperceptible, but it sent a chill down my spine. I knew we were not alone. "Emily, I think it's time to go," I whispered, my heart pounding in my chest. But as I turned to face her, I saw that she was no longer alone. There was something behind her, a presence that seemed to loom over her, its eyes fixed on me. I tried to scream, but my voice was frozen in my throat. The presence seemed to grow larger, its eyes fixed on me with an unspeakable malevolence. I knew then that we were in grave danger, that we had to get out of Oakwood Asylum before it was too late. But as I turned to run, I felt a hand on my shoulder, holding me back. It was Emily, her eyes wide with fear. "Don't leave me," she whispered. I tried to shake her off, but she held tight. And then the lights went out. We were plunged into darkness, the only sound the creaking of the old building and the distant hum of the wind. I was trapped, alone and frightened, with no way to escape. As I stood there, frozen in fear, I heard it. A faint whisper, a soft echo that seemed to come from all around us. It was a name, a single word that sent shivers down my spine. Mine. I knew then that we were doomed. As I stood there, frozen in fear, the darkness seemed to coalesce around me, taking on a life of its own. The air was heavy with an unspeakable malevolence, a presence that seemed to seep into my very pores. I could feel its eyes on me, boring into my skin like cold, dead weights. The whisper seemed to grow louder, more insistent, until it was almost deafening. Mine, it seemed to say, over and over, until the word became a mantra, a rhythmic chant that echoed through my mind. I tried to shake it off, to tell myself it was just my imagination, but the sound seemed to be coming from all around me, echoing off the walls and ceiling. And then I saw it. A faint, flickering light, like a candle flame, seemed to dance across the walls. It was a soft blue-green color, and it seemed to pulse with a life of its own. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I realized that the light was not just a trick of the mind, but a real, tangible presence. As I watched, the light seemed to grow brighter, more intense. It began to take on a shape, a form that seemed to coalesce out of the very darkness itself. I felt a scream building in my throat as I realized that the shape was a face, a twisted, grotesque parody of a human visage. The eyes were black as coal, and they seemed to bore into my very soul. The mouth was a twisted, lipless slit, and it seemed to be curled into a snarl. I felt a wave of fear wash over me as I realized that I was staring into the face of something ancient, something evil. The face seemed to grow larger, more intense, until it filled my entire field of vision. I felt a hand on my shoulder, and I spun around to face Emily. But she was not alone. The presence that had been lurking behind her was now standing beside her, its eyes fixed on me with an unspeakable malevolence. I knew then that we were doomed. The presence was not just a monster, but a guardian, a keeper of the darkness that lurked within the walls of Oakwood Asylum. And it would stop at nothing to keep us from escaping. As I watched, the face seemed to grow larger, more intense. It filled my entire field of vision, until I was consumed by its twisted, grotesque features. I felt a scream building in my throat, but it was too late. The darkness closed in around me, and I was consumed by the very evil that I had been trying to escape. In that moment, I knew that I was truly alone, trapped in a living nightmare from which I would never awaken. The whisper seemed to grow louder, more insistent, until it was the only sound that I could hear. Mine, it seemed to say over and over, until the word became my entire world. The darkness closed in around me, and I felt the weight of the presence's gaze on me like a physical force. The air was thick with an unspeakable malevolence, and I could feel its icy breath on the back of my neck. I tried to turn, to face the horror head-on, but my feet seemed rooted to the spot. As I stood there, frozen in terror, the face began to laugh. The sound was like nothing I had ever heard before, a low, rasping cackle that seemed to shake the very foundations of the asylum. The sound grew louder, more intense, until it was almost deafening. I felt my mind begin to unravel, my grip on reality tenuous at best. The face seemed to be growing larger, more intense, until it filled my entire field of vision. I felt its hot breath on my skin, and I could smell the stench of decay and rot. Suddenly, the face seemed to lunge forward, its black eyes blazing with an otherworldly intensity. I felt a scream building in my throat, but it was too late. The face was upon me, its twisted features filling my entire field of vision. I felt a wave of icy coldness wash over me, and I knew that I was staring into the face of pure, unadulterated evil. The presence seemed to be absorbing me, drawing me into its very being. I felt my consciousness begin to slip away, consumed by the darkness that surrounded me. The whisper seemed to grow louder, more insistent, until it was the only sound that I could hear. Mine, it seemed to say, over and over, until the word became my entire world. I felt my mind shattering, my grip on reality breaking. And then, everything went black. As I fell into the darkness, I felt the presence's icy grip on my shoulder, holding me in place. I knew that I was trapped, forever bound to the horror that lurked within the walls of Oakwood Asylum. The last thing I heard was the sound of my own screams, echoing through the corridors of my own mind. The darkness closed in around me, and I was consumed by the very evil that I had been trying to escape. I was trapped in a living nightmare, forever bound to the horror that lurked within the walls of Oakwood Asylum. In that moment, I knew that I was truly alone, trapped in a world of unending terror. The whisper seemed to grow louder, more insistent, until it was the only sound that I could hear. Mine, it seemed to say over and over, until the word became my entire world. The darkness closed in around me, and I was consumed by the very evil that I had been trying to escape. I was trapped in a living nightmare, forever bound to the horror that lurked within the walls of Oakwood Asylum. The whisper seemed to grow louder, more insistent, until it was the only sound that I could hear. Mine, it seemed to say over and over, until the word became my entire world. As I slowly regained consciousness, I found myself back in my own bed, the familiar surroundings of my room, a welcome respite from the unending terror of Oakwood Asylum. But as I looked around, I realized that something was off. The shadows seemed to twist and writhe on the walls like living things. And the whisper, that insistent whisper, still echoed in my mind. Mine, it seemed to say over and over, until the word became my entire world. I tried to shake off the feeling of unease, telling myself it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. But as I looked down at my hands, I saw that they were covered in dust and dirt, as if I had been crawling through the abandoned corridors of the asylum just hours before. And then I saw it. The face. The twisted, evil face that had haunted my every waking moment since I stepped foot in Oakwood Asylum. It was etched into the wall, a mocking grin spreading across its features. I knew then that I was not free. The presence had followed me, had brought its evil into my own home. I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead as I realized that I was trapped in a living nightmare, forever bound to the horror that lurked within the walls of Oakwood Asylum. The whisper seemed to grow louder, more insistent, until it was the only sound that I could hear. Mine, it seemed to say, over and over, until the word became my entire world. As I sat there, frozen in terror, I knew that I would never be free. The darkness would always be there, lurking just out of sight, waiting to consume me whole. And I knew that I would never be alone again, for the presence would always be with me, whispering its evil presence in my ear. The face on the wall seemed to be growing larger, more intense, until it filled my entire field of vision. I felt its hot breath on my skin, and I could smell the stench of decay and rot. I knew then that I was staring into the face of pure, unadulterated evil. And I knew that I was doomed. As the darkness closed in around me, I felt the presence's icy grip on my shoulder, holding me in place. I was trapped, forever bound to the horror that lurked within the walls of Oakwood Asylum. And in that moment, I knew that I was truly alone, trapped in a world of unending terror. The whisper seemed to grow louder, more insistent, until it was the only sound that I could hear. Mine, it seemed to say over and over, until the word became my entire world. And I knew that I would never be free. Epilogue, the last whisper. I'm writing these words by the faint light of a dying candle, my hand trembling with each stroke of the pen. The face on the wall is gone, but I know it's still here, watching me, waiting for me to succumb to the madness that has consumed me. The whisper has stopped, but only because I've grown accustomed to its presence. It's a constant companion now, a reminder that I'll never be free from the horror that lurks within the walls of Oakwood Asylum. I've tried to escape, to flee from the darkness that follows me everywhere, but it's always there, lurking just out of sight. I've seen it in the shadows, in the eyes of strangers on the street, in the reflection of my own mirror. I know I'm not alone. The presence is always with me, whispering its evil presence in my ear. I've grown to accept it, to even find a twisted comfort in its familiar voice. But there are moments, fleeting moments, when I'm convinced that I'm not alone. When I see a figure out of the corner of my eye, a figure that looks like me but isn't. When I hear a voice that's not my own, a voice that's whispering a single word, mine. I've tried to convince myself that it's just my imagination, but deep down, I know the truth. The presence has a plan for me, a plan that will unfold in the darkest recesses of my mind. As I finish writing these words, the candle flickers and dies, plunging me into darkness. I'm left with only the sound of my own ragged breathing and the faint whisper of that single word, mine. And in the darkness, I know that I'm not alone. The presence is here, waiting for me, watching me. It's always been here, and it always will be. The darkness closes in around me, and I'm consumed by it. I'm just a shadow now, a shadow of my former self, trapped in a world of unending terror. And in the end, I know that I'll never be free. The whisper will always be there, echoing in my mind, a constant reminder that I'm forever bound to the horror that lurks within the walls of Oakwood Asylum. The last thing I see is the face, the twisted, evil face that's haunted me for so long. It's smiling at me, its eyes glinting with malevolence. And I know that I'm truly alone, trapped in a world of unending terror, forever bound to the darkness that lurks within the walls of Oakwood Asylum. The whisper grows fainter, but it's still there, echoing in my mind. Mine, it seems to say, over and over, until the word becomes my entire world. And in the darkness, I'm consumed by it, forever trapped in a living nightmare from which I'll never awaken. As the darkness closes in around me, I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you who has joined me on this journey into the heart of madness. Your presence here means the world to me, and I'm so glad that you've been able to bear witness to the horrors that I've endured within the walls of Oakwood Asylum. I know that the journey has been a long and terrifying one, but I hope that it's also been a thought-provoking and thrilling ride. I'll try to share with you the deepest, darkest corners of my own mind, and I hope that you've found something to resonate with, something to make you think, and something to make you feel. As I succumb to the darkness, I want to leave you with a message of hope. Hope that you'll continue to explore the depths of human psychology. Hope that you'll continue to question the nature of reality, and hope that you'll continue to seek out the truth, no matter how terrifying it may be. And as you continue on your own journey, I invite you to join me on this channel, where we'll delve into the darkest recesses of the human mind, where we'll explore the most terrifying corners of the universe, and where we'll seek out the truth, no matter what horrors we may find. So, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and join me on this journey into the heart of madness. Let's explore the unknown together and see where it takes us. Let's seek out the truth, no matter what horrors we may find. And let's face the darkness head-on, together. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, if I survive the darkness that's consuming me. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and let's keep exploring the unknown together.